안녕하세요, 블록미디어 시청자 여러분. 저는 블록미디어 리서치팀의 황유준이라고 합니다. 오늘 만나볼 분은 프라이버시 AI를 위한 블록체인 인프라를 구축하고 있는 프로젝트인 네사의 스테판 루크입니다. Hello, Stefan. Could you briefly introduce yourself and explain what Nesa is?
Absolutely. So I'm Stefan Luke. I'm the COO of Nesa. I've been in Web3 for the better part of a decade. I've been building and investing across the space. I went deep into DeFi in 2022. I launched one of the first tokenized credit facilities, Flux Credit. We were democratizing access to credit for small to medium-sized enterprises. Prior to my time in Web3, I also spent some time in traditional finance, particularly on the asset management side. And in early 2024, I began to see a great shift towards AI. And a few of my closest friends were already doing deep research in the space. And together we were really quite bullish to build something meaningful. And that inevitably became Nesa. And just to give you a bit of color on the company, Nesa is a layer one decentralized AI platform that enables fully private AI inference. So the platform and our core technology is now being used by big tech, the Fortune 500, and some of the most valuable AI Web3 projects in space. And so, I'm really excited to be speaking with you today about it and diving more into kind of what we support.
Yeah, thanks for introductions. How do you see the AI market evolving and what impact will it have on the world?
Yeah, so you're saying the AI market. So I think the attention in the AI market is shifting really from training to inference, and more importantly to agentic systems. So over the last few years, the focus was on building these like larger, more powerful AI models. And obviously that phase is still extremely important, but I feel like the marginal difference for like a new update in AI reasoning is really starting to kind of plateau. So like ChatGPT's version of 5.0 versus maybe a 6.0 eventually. And so, from that side of things and training and using training data that really at the end of the day, they've kind of scrubbed all of the available training data and made these models really at the forefront. They're all kind of on the same playing field now. But there are, however, very clear signals in the market right now. And recent industry data shows that inference is projected to account for roughly 85% of the AI compute by 2029. And that would be up from around 33%, which was just a few years ago. So inference is also going to account for so much more of the total lifetime cost of AI systems, around 80 to 90% of it. So the shift has become getting inference into these real world environments where possibly agentic work can operate through enterprises. And so you have companies like Intel that just reported that the inference demand is now driving a huge surge in server compute requirements, and that's all driven through agent-driven usage. So that's where this exponential dynamic comes in, and I feel like the impact on the world is exciting, especially from Nesa's position and business model that we have is that inference is just this new daily requirement as society moves forward, and we are the offers of inference in a fully private way.
Yeah, it's clear that AI will significantly improve productivity and efficiencies. However, what are the key challenges that must be addressed in this process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think the core challenge, first and foremost, is privacy in AI. So particularly, how do you tap into these AI resources that have become so important to all of us, so indispensable, some of the most powerful like LLMs, image models, video models, but while still preserving your privacy. So if you use like your commercial providers directly, like a Claude or a ChatGPT, all your data is visible in plain text during inference. And if you build your models internally from scratch and you try to preserve that privacy internally that way, how can you do so without fundamentally overhauling your infrastructure or just becoming this quasi AI company when you're really working in an industry that maybe you don't want to have an AI team? And so just to host these massive GPUs, it becomes a bottleneck on both sides of the bracket there. And so that's really holding back broader adoption. And these two aspects that are problems in the industry must be addressed.
Oh, cool. And how does Nesa aim to solve these issues, and what vision does it have?
Yeah, right. So building off of my last point, Nesa solves this bottleneck that I just spoke about, through offering fully encrypted inference. So we are the only project that has achieved 100% privacy while using AI. Our breakthrough in privacy is called Equivariant Encryption, and it's really a derivation of FHE, where AI models can compute directly on encrypted data. But the key is that there's no drop off in latency or accuracy. So the implication of our lightweight technology is that it's enterprise ready. It's a simple plug and play. Enterprises connect through the simple API and gain access to our model store. We have over 120,000 AI models, and they have full encryption layered over them during use. And so our vision now extends out. You have these sensitive industries like healthcare, finance, law, even government, and they can finally tap into the necessary AI tooling that they would need to remain competitive without sacrificing their privacy during inference. And therein, we enable a very sovereign version of AI where companies can really just control their own data and how they use their data while using AI.
You feel like you're addressing very important problems, one that many of us may have overlooked. Yeah. And privacy is a critical issue in AI, while computational performance is equally important, since achieving both is technically challenging. How does Nesa address this trade-off?
Yeah, so I think it's absolutely essential for us to maintain enterprise-grade performance with no latency trade-offs. So the reality is the companies that we work with, they have to rely on fast, consistent workloads that have heavy usage. So even a slight delay, a slight lag, or an interruption, that can impact their operations and then ultimately put their contract that they have with us also at risk. And so because of that, we've approached privacy with a very strict requirement. There's basically a zero compromise on computational performance. And if there's any drop off, it's just not viable. And that's why our approach with our technology, Equivariant Encryption, was designed to basically preserve a near native speed. So since launching, we've been very consistent on this. There hasn't been any performance degradation across all of our users, including the large enterprise clients. And that consistency is what gives them the confidence to actually deploy this in the real world for themselves. So there's other privacy technologies that exist like pure FHE or fully homomorphic encryption, but it's way too computationally heavy to be usable. So a large enterprise, they would not be able to use FHE daily, as they would be waiting like maybe 10 minutes, an hour, 3 hours just for a response, depending on the query size. So it's just not realistic. And that's why we have Equivariant encryption in play, and it has instant results. And this feat was only possible because of our world-class team. Nesa is very, very deep on the research side. We have 12 AI PhDs, 7 AI professors, and they were able to huddle together and create this technology. It took some time, but it's been a long journey, but we have a product here that is truly special.
Wow, that's amazing. And Nesa seems like infrastructures with strong institutional value. Are you seeing real demand or early adoptions from enterprises?
Yes, absolutely. So Nesa already serves some of the biggest companies in the world. We have 50 plus partnerships, including Fortune 50s like Procter & Gamble, 9 other Fortune 500s as well that we'll be announcing those partners quite soon. So stay tuned for that. Also, we work with some big health tech companies, so like Hume Health and FitTrack, and we have the most AI transactions in all of crypto. So we handle 8 million encrypted inference requests daily. Wow. And all of those are validated on chain. So that's a very heavy amount of traffic daily, but our architecture has been designed for it. And over the next year, we're going to be expanding our sales team, which will continue to drive this momentum, especially on the Web 2 side. Nesa has, a lot of the compliance standards already in place. So we have GDPR, we have HIPAA, and we have SOC 2. And so these are non-negotiables for a lot of the companies that we want to work with. And we're also about to be one of the first to work with the North American government, which we're really excited about. So enterprise AI is projected to scale to being like a $1 trillion market over the next few years and becoming core infrastructure across these industries. So we at Nesa, we see ourselves really being able to capture much of that growth, especially with our privacy technology that really has a kind of a moat over the rest of the market right now.
Wow, it's really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as a layer ones, it's hard to ignore the load of the tokens. What is the
Right.
utility of the Nesa's tokens and how does value occur within the network?
Yeah, the utility aspect of a Web3 company is so important. I think there's a lot of noise in Web3 where tokens will just launch and they don't have a lot of real use case to them. They're just kind of launching. And so for Nesa, we had a different business model. And so our token NES is a native asset of the Nesa network, and it has three primary functions. Okay. So the first is AI inference payments. So possessing NES is just required. If you want to execute AI inference across the network, if you want to use fully encrypted AI or one of the 120,000 models on our platform, you must pay in NES. That's an automatic level of utility coming through the token. The second aspect is network support. So NES is staked by both the miners and the validators to participate in the network operations on the back end, including supplying compute. So you can supply compute on through your edge device or your CPU, your GPU, and also from a validation perspective, supporting on that front. Staking helps to obviously purify the network. So the model is created for slashing, for misbehavior, poor compute uptime problems, and then also rewarding those solid providers of compute, which inevitably leaves only quality compute. And so the third way that we feel that there's a utility-driven focus through our token is through through the ecosystem participation. So NES is used to actually interact with decentralized AI projects, including trading and staking these projects, and just simply like having early stage participation. And users find these DAIs, these decentralized AI projects that they're really bullish on and that have been building on Nesa, and you stake the NES in them and you get future airdrops, you support them, and typically it would be quite difficult to get involved with a project that early in its life cycle due to the private nature of the actual company. But we're giving the community that opportunity to use NES for a huge benefit for them to invest in these companies, but also across the whole ecosystem of Nesa through other kind of different ways.
Yeah, thank you. And in the long terms, what does the privacy AI ecosystem envisioned by Nesa look like, and what role will Nesa play within it?
So I think in the long run, I see Nesa as the default provider for all private inference. So the wider ecosystem will be, like I said in the beginning, this network of AI agents and enterprises that are using these applications, and even from a decentralized perspective, right? The decentralized AI projects, they'll all be operating seamlessly, but they'll be operating in a fully encrypted environment. Because at the end of the day, whether you're a developer, whether you're an actual company itself, whether you're an agent, encryption is very, very key, especially as we move forward. I think it's really something that maybe is getting overlooked, is the sheer power of AI is so strong. And so we have a responsibility to, deal with that in the right way. And so, I personally think that, our DAI ecosystem, and I touched on it briefly, but we have multiple projects with valuations over $100 million building on us. And, they're building something industry disruptive. These are projects with world-class teams, and the ecosystem is growing very, very quick. And this momentum is supported through, these initial projects that are building on us. Open Genome is one of them, Simula, KYA, Veil, Everlyn, the list goes on. And really, for anyone listening, please check out the Nesa playground, see those top projects, and you'll be able to actually, take a look, a deeper dive into, who's actually running the project and what they're actually about. And it's quite interesting. But just going back to what I was saying, I think, data never leaves the full control of the owner, and the trust shifts from these centralized providers to infrastructure. And I think Nesa's role in that future is to just be the backbone of all of it.
Yeah, thank you. And many viewers in Korean will be watching this interview. How do you view the Korean market, and what are your plans for it?
Absolutely, yeah. So globally, we are very keen on Korea. It is often a place where, like, the future arrives early, especially in Web3. Like, if private agentic AI is going to scale globally, we want it shaped by builders and users in Korea early on. And so some of our most trusted validators are major Korean companies, including a major Korean media outlet. And we also work very, very closely, and maybe you'll appreciate this as well, but we work very closely with Korea University and, some of the top professors and the head deans there, that, advancing the field, particularly within decentralization and privacy. And like I said, research is very core to what we do. We've published extensively. We have 40 plus awards in AI and research and 70 plus conference acceptances. I feel like, especially from a Korean market perspective, that really speaks to them because, at the end of the day, you have ideas, you have ways of thinking about how AI is going to change the world. But if you don't have a technology that has actually been, accepted into some of these very, very reputationally, high-end, colleges and research side places, I don't think it's necessarily the best. So we definitely want to do our best to make sure that the Korean market feels like they can invest in something that truly is going to be revolutionary for the future. And so, we also have plans to host some really cool events over in Seoul in the next few months. And so also look towards that. And KBW, it's a really cool event. I always look forward to it. We'll probably be hosting some events there as well. So stay tuned on that front.
Yeah, that's really cool. And finally, is there anything you'd like to add about Nesa or any message you'd like to share with Korean investors or builders?
Yeah, for sure. So I think with TGE right around the corner, I want to really double down on how imperative it is for the Korean community to just stay engaged, stay involved, whether that's through X, Discord, our official announcements, whether you get signed up on our Nesa playground, there's a lot happening and being plugged in will be key, especially in these next few weeks. We have a wave of rewards. We have airdrop, some Nesa playground based rewards, and we will be distributing those as well soon. So, get started. Maybe you can climb the leaderboard in time over the next few weeks. We're going to have a very strong push. And overall, I think there are multiple entry points into the Nesa ecosystem. I think that's what makes it special. So if you are a Korean developer and you're looking to build something with AI, something innovative, you want to do it in a fully private way, or you're just, a normal participant and you're maybe looking to just make your mark in supporting the platform while also earning, then you can just get started and be a big part of our mission. Or, if you want to supply compute, right? And if you want to join the Nesa family on the back end and you want to connect your edge device, it's very seamless. And so, you can share on the rewards and be a part of the family in that regard. And we currently have 150,000 miners on our platform, but we're always welcoming more. And so, just to leave off, I think Nesa is really poised to continue its growth. We have over 100,000 users currently engaging with our platform. Obviously, we're opening up mainnet any day now, so it's very very exciting. But for our Korean investors, now is the best time to really get involved. As we approach a lot of these new key milestones.
Yeah, thank you for taking the times. We cleared all the questions.
No, I'm good from my side. I'm really, really happy I was able to speak to you today, and I hope I'm going to have a chance to see you when I head over to Seoul, and we'll have a good time together.